Hey, what's up guys, Cooley here. Today we're going to be going over the patch notes for Dirty Bomb. This is something I used to do for PlanetSide 2. Some people said, they'd rather just read the patch notes, and that's perfectly fine. I'll actually leave you guys a link in the description. However, I did have a lot of people that would rather hear me read them and talk about some of them, and give some of my opinions on the patch notes. And watch some gameplay in the process. So I'm going to do this. If you guys don't think it's useful at all, if you guys think it's just a waste of time, let me know, because these videos are really easy for me to do. It's a way for me to use up some gameplay that I have saved that I don't have planned for anything. Basically, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much the gist of it. So we'll start with the bigger ones first. We have a new anti-cheat system. Now, this is awesome. It's something that everybody's been calling for. Personally, I have not had a big problem with hackers, but I do not play competitive matchmaking, and apparently that's where all the hackers are usually playing. But any new anti-cheat is definitely a good thing. Any amount of hackers, aimbotters, cheaters, whatever you want to call them, you can get rid of. That's just always good. Now, keep in mind, guys, I have not played since the patch came out, and some of the stuff in here might not actually be in the game. That tends to happen with patches sometimes. They'll say they did something and not actually changed it. So I'm just going with the notes here, and hopefully all this stuff is actually implemented today. So the next big one on the list is they toned aim punch down even further. They reduced the amount of view kick when shot by 10%, increased view kick recovery speed by 35%. Again, they didn't completely remove it from the game, which is what a lot of people want. I've never been somebody that's been really affected by aim punch too much or had really a big opinion on it one way or the other. But they're going for a competitive scene here. I mean, they actually have a mode called competitive matchmaking, and all competitive gamers that I've ever talked to absolutely hate aim punch. So I don't understand really why they put it in the game to begin with, but the fact that they reduced it is a good thing. Hope maybe eventually they'll take it out altogether. Like I said, I'm not really affected one way or another, but if most of the community wants to see it gone, I'm all for it. I'm all for anything that keeps the Dirty Bomb community happy and keeps more people playing the game, basically. Another big change they made is they removed the turn speed limit from primary attacks for all melee weapons. So that weird slowdown when you're using an attack is now reverted back to how it was before, when you're using your primary melee attack or your fast attack, your slash attack, whatever you want to call it. Another thing that a lot of people are really calling for, it was a really weird change to begin with. I think it was kind of a knee-jerk reaction to Phantom. They nerfed Phantom as well as nerfing all mercs at the same time. And I think it was a little, like I said, just kind of a knee-jerk reaction. And I'm glad they reverted this back. A couple other general gameplay changes. They added an upper XP limit of 99,999 XP per match to help protect against potential farming exploits. And that's basically for any new exploits that aren't in the game or nobody's found yet, just to limit how much XP the people that are going to try to take advantage of these exploits are actually going to be able to get until they can actually fix the exploit. They updated 4-second spawn point invulnerability. If a player fires, they are dropped to a 50% damage shield rather than losing it entirely. And it says this change does not impact medic revives. So a couple changes there, a couple big ones. The next thing I want to mention is a bug fix. I'm not going to go over all the stuff in these patch notes. Don't worry about that. A lot of little bug fixes, things like that. But the one bug fix I do want to talk about is they fixed steady aim, or the steady augment, the one that adds health to your deployables. Apparently now actually adds health to your deployables. Last patch they fixed a few augments as well, because there were a lot of ones that just did nothing. So I'm glad they're finally taking care of these, because loadouts are pretty limited as they are. So to not have a couple things actually work on a loadout card that you want to use, or a loadout card that you've earned, was pretty stupid. So I'm glad they're taking care of these. Now, as for the mercs themselves, we do have 4 mercs that did get some changes. Nader had an increase to health from 110 up to 120, but she did have her movement speed reduced by 2.5%. If I were to play Nader, I'd take the 10 hit points and have the slight movement speed reduction. I think that's almost a little bit of a buff. I think they actually could have just reduced her movement speed and kept her at 110. I don't think she needs... I think she needs to be nerfed a little bit. I'm not going to go into exactly why or how or I would do it or anything like that, but I think she's one of the stronger mercs, maybe a little bit too strong. Yeah, moving on. Rhino had his movement speed increased by 2.5%. Just makes Rhino a little bit faster. A lot of people think Rhino's overpowered. I'm not really in that same boat. I hate playing Rhino. Maybe that's why. Of course, I do hate coming across Rhinos with certain mercs. Mainly ones if I'm using a shotgun or anything really close quarters. But most weapons I can deal with Rhino pretty easily. Skyhammer, his airstrike markers will now always deal damage when they first detonate, which is kind of more of a bug fix. However, they did increase the cooldown when failing to call an airstrike to 20 seconds from 15 seconds. And they reduced the airstrike marker detonation radius by 10%. So a slight nerf to Skyhammer. Nothing that's going to make you want to stop playing him or anything like that. Now, Sparks did get a little buff. She got her med packs. Healing amount increased to 30 hit points from 25. And she got the Reviver gun actually will take 10% longer to drain now. So I think that's a good change too. I think her med packs were really, really weak. They're still not going to be, better than Sawbones or better than Orr's Healing Station or anything like that. But she's basically just a sniper slash reviver, and now her med packs will be a little bit more efficient. So I think that's good. The last thing I want to talk about is weapon tuning. The M4A1 assault rifle had its effective range reduced by 5%, and the Timic 47 AR had its bullet spread reduced by 5%, and recoil kick reduced by 5%. And I like this change because if you got on a Skyhammer, almost everybody just chose the M4A1 over the Timic, and there wasn't a lot of reason to use the Timic. The M4A1 was just always going to be better. This might narrow the gap a little bit. Again, I haven't tried them out since. I'd love to get in and test these out, but I think this is a good change. And I think they're doing a lot of these changes in small increments, the 5%. And I think that's good rather than just over buffing something or over nerfing something, which a lot of games tend to do. So I think they're going the right direction. Now the VR16 and the Stark AR both had their recoil reduced by 5% and their bullet spread reduced by 5%. The Dryce AR had its recoil reduced by 10%. Of course they did this the day after I did my RD video talking about all three of these weapons. A lot of people don't necessarily like these guns as much as the full auto weapons, so I think bringing them up a little bit is kind of a good thing. So the K121 MG had its magazine size increased to 55 rounds from 50, and also had its spread increase rate reduced by 10%. So that gun got a nice little buff as well, because I think it has to go with the M4A1 thing, where if you're playing Fragger, almost everybody went with the M4A1, or I would say the majority did. The SMG9 had its bullet spread reduced by 5% and its recoil reduced by 5%, and the Hawkfire had its recoil reduced by 10%. Now the one SMG that did get a nerf was the Krotzny. It had its starting bullet spread increased by 10%, and they actually leave a link to a couple graphs showing that the Krotzny had the highest accuracy when being fired from the hip of any of the submachine guns, and it was by a decent margin, over 3% over the next one, which was the Blishlock, and it also had the highest kills per minute. Now, a lot of people are wondering why they didn't change the Keck 10, which is left off this list completely, and just going by their stats, their data that they have, the Krotzny is actually the superior weapon here. Now, in the hands of the right player, the Keck 10's amazing. Then it comes down to, how good your accuracy is and stuff like that. And I'm not going to get into this, but the reason I even bring this up is because the Keck 10 being off the list, left off the list, I think is actually good, because that means they're not nerfing the Keck 10. Instead, they're bringing the rest of the weapons up. And that's always a good thing in my opinion. Now, the last guns I want to talk about are the shotguns. It looks like all 3 shotguns got buffed. The Holland's 880, which I always thought was inferior to the Rimberg 7, had its effective range, not infective range, increased by 25%. That's a good little chunk of range increase. Now the Rimberg 7 even got buffed by having its pellet spread reduced by 8%. And then the Arnold 12 actually has its range increased by 50%. That is a pretty decent chunk there. And I'm really looking forward to getting in, hopping on Fletcher, and seeing how this gun actually functions now. Is 50% a lot? I mean, it sounds like it. How that actually plays out in game, you know, I won't know until I get in and try it. But I'm a little bit surprised that they buffed the shotguns. I can see the Holland's 880 because it seemed just a little bit inferior to the Rimberg 7, but yeah, I'm a little bit mystified by this, but like I said, I'm curious to see how they actually play in game. But anyways, guys, that's all I have. Let me know if you guys enjoyed this or want to see these from now on. This is just kind of a trial to see if I get any interest, because I did have a lot of people that liked me doing these for PlanetSide 2. They never got as many views or as many likes or anything as my other videos, but like I said, they're easy for me to make. And if people appreciate them, I'm fine with making them. So anyways, that's all I have. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll talk to y'all later.